We are continuing this series where I find my all-time favorite books of the year, my number one for each year that I've been on Booktube. We have done from 2016 till today, 2019, so I will link the playlist down below so you can check it out afterwards. It will be a link on the screen also. No worries. So we're going to go back on Goodreads because on Goodreads, I apparently finished 100 books in 2019. So I will be going through all 100 books, giving you a quick review of all of them. It's fun to see if I remember them, if I've been recommending them a lot since, if I've forgotten about them, if I've changed my mind also about them, and then I will be choosing a favorite per month, and then finally at the end, my number one best book of that year. So let's get to work. It's going to be a long one. In 2019, clearly I had nothing else to do but read because I finished 18 books. I don't even know how that's possible. The first book I finished is The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. This is the last book in the Broken Earth trilogy by her. I've already said how much I love this fantasy series. It's like fantasy and like apocalyptic, the world is ending, and it was a solid third book, a solid ending. I feel like there's nothing worse than reading a whole series and then you get to the ending and it's disappointing. It wasn't. It's definitely still an all-time favorite series for me. Then I finished Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in a YA sci-fi series, and I loved book one. I understood why people didn't like it. I feel like the humor is definitely a bit edgy and definitely YA, but in that case, it really worked for me. You have this group of leftover of humanity on this planet, and they are constantly under attack by aliens. They're trying to survive. My character wants to become a pilot to try and fight back. I really liked it. 5-star for me. Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence is the second book in this adult fantasy series with the badass fighting nuns. At the time, I liked it. Then you have Record of Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. She's one of my ultimate favorite authors. This book, though, is the third book in that companion series, and it's an adult sci-fi. I wasn't super invested, but I did appreciate the representation of an older female couple and how that had nothing to do with the story. I think that she does representation really well because the characters are just there, and that's just normal as it should. And yeah, but the story was just okay. It's not my favorite in that series. Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. Unpopular opinion, this used to be a duology sci-fi following supervillains, and now it's going to be a trilogy, but the second book is my favorite, which everyone disagrees, but I don't care. I love Marcella. She's my favorite supervillain. I feel like you're following her and you're like, yeah, you're right. Like, they did you wrong. Get your revenge. I'm on your side. So yes, I would still recommend this. The Passage. I have been recommended this series so many times because I love post-apocalyptic books. So I read the first book, and I thought it was just okay. I found it, one, kind of exhausting. It feels like a whole trilogy, the way it's like written in one book. Not in a good way, it felt long. The sections felt sectioned, okay? I'm not finding my words right now, but it felt, you know what I mean. And I didn't really care about some of the stuff in there, so personally it was just okay. No hurt feelings, but not for me. Childhood's End has to be one of the weirdest books I have read, and not in a good way. It's an adult sci-fi. I liked really in past tense, reading a lot of classic sci-fi because I thought it was fun to see where things were and how they are nowadays. But I got kind of sick and tired of the same, misogyny, racism, and everything. And this one is no different. It's not super like in your face, but it's still there. But it's mostly just too weird. It lost me. The book is once again divided in 3, and the first portion ends on a good note. Like, it's, oh my God, that's interesting. And then you lose me completely. So Elevation by Stephen King. It's a short story-esque. It's like 100 pages. It's not horror. I don't know why that won the horror section on the Goodreads Choice Award. It was just okay. It was just okay. I feel like it was not in the right category. 21 Lessons for the 21st Century is the second book I read by this author. A lot of people have read Sapiens, so same author. And the title is not, I hate when a title is like not appropriate. It's not 21 lessons, it's 21 chapters. And it started interesting. You're seeing like possible effects of technology, and then it becomes completely different. The author just used it to write about topics he's interested in. So it was just okay. Bound was a short story in the same universe of The Badass Nuns. An Absent Dream is the fourth book in this Shannon Maguire series. This is my favorite one in the whole series, the children that go to different universe. And this is the one that appealed to me the most. Do be aware that 1, it's YA, 2, they tend to skip the action. So if you are someone that loves action-driven stories, it might not be for you, but this was by far my favorite. Recursion by Blake Crouch. Okay, I have mixed feelings about him in general. He tends to write really interesting sci-fi, thriller sci-fi that will keep you up at night. The writing is not the best, but like you don't read him for like literary fiction, you read him for action movie-esque kind of books. And this one is combining different tropes that I personally enjoy. His characters are not the greatest also, but this one was not the worst. Like, it's probably his best in terms of the character development. So this one I loved, 5-star, would reread them. I have recommended this one so much, so would definitely pick it up if you are interested. I don't feel like I've sold it, but the twists and turns are like, they're there. They're so good. Becoming by Michelle Obama's good nonfiction that she narrates as an audiobook, would recommend. The Black Unicorn, could not finish it. I didn't really care for some of the content. Sadie, I ended up enjoying a lot more than I expected. Was it told in like podcast format? I feel like this was one of the first one that I listened to that was like that, and I really enjoy that. It's a YA mystery, and yeah, I liked it a lot more than I expected. Educated is a nonfiction memoir that was a really tough read. I listened to that one as an audiobook also, and that made it hard to skip some sections, but if you like complicated, abusive families, main character lives in poverty and ended up kind of escaping through education, and she now has a PhD, so would recommend that one. 9 Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. This is where things, I had really enjoyed her first book, but Big Little Lies, the first one I had picked up, and I wanted to love this one also, and that was a mess. I tried so hard to finish it, and I just couldn't do it. And finally, because we're still in January, The Poet X, I did listen to that one as an audiobook that was recommended by you, and that was a good idea. I really enjoyed it. Part of it is in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but it worked really well as an audiobook, and yeah, it was good. This is a YA contemporary also. So I was still reading some YA, and it was hit and miss, but still. Oh, it's hard to choose a favorite. I feel like I have to give it to The Stone Sky by K. Jemisin, because objectively, this is the best one. But like, shout out to Vengeful, or like even Skyward at the time. I think I would have probably, Recursion probably would have been a strong contender. See, January this time, I mean, I did read 18 books, but there are so many possible favorites here. I kind of want to give it to Recursion. This isn't what I expected, but this is what we're going with. In February, I finished 13 books, which is equally crazy. The first one was Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember that one, like, at all. So it's a mystery thriller, as he tends to write. I remembered overall liking it, but don't remember anything. By the way, I'm not looking at the list prior to doing these videos because I want my genuine opinion. Like, mystery thrillers tend to be more like unmemorable for me, but it tells you something if I don't remember. Rogue Protocol. This is the Murderbot Diaries, and I don't remember this one at all, but like I said, when I was reviewing the first book, because this is the third one, I really love book one, and then I kind of just, I feel like the action and the overall story was not appealing to me. I just liked the character, which you can enjoy in book one, and then I kind of lost interest. I tried so hard though. Redemption's Blade by Adrian Tchaikovsky, the same author that wrote Children of Time that I loved so much. I wanted to try more by him. This is an adult fantasy. Is it a standalone? Nope. Apparently there are 4 books. I've only read the first one. This happens like after there's been the big battle, the big thing, and I don't remember much of the story at all. The Shape of Water. This was part of my Goodreads Choice Award challenge. I used to go back and try to read as much of the nominees and winners so I could do my own award a year later. That way I had read a bunch of the books and I could choose the best one in my opinion, because I felt like it was a popularity contest, which nothing has changed. But I did that for a few years and it was fun to get out of my comfort zone, but it was not successful in terms of finding new favorites. So The Shape of Water was a big fail for me. I did not like it. Brief Answers to Big Questions. I used to read a lot of nonfiction that were like science heavy, and I've realized that they just don't stick with me like at all. So Sing Unburied Sing. I don't remember reading this book. This is not. And I don't think it's because I'm reading so many books. I just think that sometimes I try things that are outside of my comfort zone, and unless the story really stick with me, I don't remember them. The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. Okay, I really wanted to try more by him, and this is like 100-something pages, and it is dystopian, sci-fi, adult, and the premise is really intriguing, kind of like Black Mirror-esque, if that's your thing. Basically, for people that want to be accepted in the UK, they have to pass this test, and it's not quite what you're expecting, and I enjoyed it. The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is a YA contemporary romance. This is where I hit my limit. Because at first it was good. It was cute the first, like, I don't know, half, and then I lost interest so much. The insta-love, not for me, so no. Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This one is following a big revenge story, assassin, magic. I really liked it at the time. I don't read any books by him anymore. I'll Be Gone in the Dark is a nonfiction that I tried because of the Goodreads challenge. This one is like crime novel, which I've realized are not for me, but this one is super popular and it was fine. It's about the Golden State Killer. The Silent Patient. Okay, this one is so popular. Once in a while, an author becomes super popular and it leaves me really confused. Like, why are you guys putting so much marketing behind that person? Because that book sucks. And I know it's popular. I know a lot of people don't read a ton of mystery thrillers, so they read one and they love it, and I'm happy for you. But I genuinely hated everything about this. And I listened to this one as an audiobook, which I feel like it made the weak writing even more obvious because you listen to it out loud and it's just, no, not for me. Golden State, I was giving this author a second shot and I haven't tried anything else by him since. And finally, Les Fiancés de l'Hiver, which has been translated in English since. This one is a YA fantasy series that was really, really popular. And it was one of those that people were comparing to Harry Potter, and I don't know why, because it has nothing in common. The world building was somewhat interesting, but I hated the romance and I hated the main character. She was giving like I'm not like other girls vibes, like very strongly. So it's popular though, so it might just be me. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't awful, but I never continued. See, as much as January was fantastic, February wasn't. At the time, I think I would have given it to Nevernight by J. Kristoff. And I don't think I have much of a choice because there's really nothing else. So in March, I finished 5 books, which is a little more reasonable. The first one I finished was An American Marriage, which I was also reading due to that Goodreads challenge. This is contemporary historical fiction, maybe? Literally fiction. I overall did enjoy that one. It didn't really stick with me much, but you are following these two characters who just recently got married or trying to, start their lives when the main male character gets arrested for a crime he didn't commit. So he ends up in prison for years and years and years. And he's a black man. So obviously there's like racism mixed into that. So it was a painful kind of story, which I was invested, but not a favorite. It was good. It was good. The Astonishing Color of After was a YA contemporary, maybe a bit of magical realism in there. And I believe this was about grief. I think the main female character loses her mother and ends up going to Asia. Let me just look that one up. So she goes to Taiwan to meet her grandparents, and she's getting these messages, I think, from her mother. And it was overall enjoyable, but once again, I don't really read a ton of YA anymore, so it was okay. It was okay. Then I finished The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is like such a famous murder mystery, dark academia kind of novel, literary fiction. I'm always told that my accent is making it sound like I'm saying literary. You know what I mean. I did enjoy the insufferable characters. They're studying like dead languages, and I enjoyed the murder mystery, but I thought it wasn't as great as everyone else is making it sound. Anybody else? I feel like the murder mystery was fine. Like the ending happened and I was like, okay, but I cared more about the university setting. I thought it was interesting to see them learning and just being snobby, awful people. So I overall did enjoy it though. Then I read The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is an adult fantasy. It used to be a standalone. Now there's a prequel. Does that make it a series? I think probably it does. But this is a brick. This is like 900 pages. I really enjoyed the world building. So much so that's why I'm not mad that she came out with a prequel. You have dragons. Basically, it's a giant battle between good and evil every, couple centuries. One side rises, the evil side rises, and they're trying to fight back. So like I said, kind of dragons. It's more of a queendom, really. And there is a little bit of a queer relationship in there, and I just really love the world building. I did find the ending kind of quick. I remember finding the battle a little too fast, but I overall really loved the series, so this was fantastic. And the last book I finished that month was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which is a YA sci-fi First Contact with Aliens, which is definitely my thing. I was a little worried because you're following a character and she's like a YouTube star, which it often feels like it's badly written, but it's Hank Green, so he does know what he's talking about. So I overall did really enjoy this. Just do be prepared because the main character is not super likable all the time, and I know it's a deal breaker for some people, but I did really like that. So I would say my favorite has to be The Priory of the Orange Tree. Fantasy is definitely going strong that year. In April, I finished 3 books, which is not a lot, but I had a good time, so we'll take it. The first one was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This was supposed to be the ending of this series, but there have been rumors that a third one is coming out. Fantasy, people tend to disagree if it's YA or not. I think it probably is. Maybe new adult if you want to include that. Although people say that just because there's spice. There's no spice. But like I have said for book one, I enjoyed the world building. I enjoy the characters. I don't enjoy the heist. Like this one, it feels too easy, and then there's something that happens at the end that is a deal breaker for me. I can spoil that in the comment section if you want me to, and that's why I'm worried about book 3. So again, I can spoil that in the comment section. So I still overall liked it, but I don't feel like I love the characters as much as everyone else. I feel like when you hear people talk about this series, they talk about these characters like they know them, and I didn't feel that connection, but I enjoyed it overall. The Great Alone by Kristen Anna. I liked the first half. I didn't like the ending. You had the main character. She lives in the north, I think Alaska, with her family, and I believe there's like domestic violence. Her father came back from the war and consequences of that. But yeah, I liked the first half, didn't care for the ending. And then last but not least, I read Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the last book in that trilogy about the badass nuns, which at the time I did enjoy it, but I found the ending, like the book in general was too short. Like I think it was maybe 300 pages, which for last book in like a big series felt kind of weak. Later on, it was announced that there was going to be a companion series, so it felt kind of just disappointing for an ending for me, but I overall did enjoy it at the time. So I feel like, once again, at the time, I would have given it to Mark Lawrence. I don't really support him anymore, so yeah, he's still going to win because there's nothing else. I don't feel like Crooked Kingdom was better because of that thing at the end. We're still trying to beat January. I started that year so strong, but in May, I finished 9 books. The first one was Two Can Keep a Secret, which I'm going to be honest, I don't remember reading whatsoever. It's a YA mystery thriller. Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. I wanted to try more by him at the time. This is a YA sci-fi, and again, did not stick with me. I didn't really care for it. Then I read Good Omens, which was also a this is not a good month. Okay. I feel like there's something about this type of humor, like British humor, that the jokes are fine. I do find them funny, but I find the book not that interesting. And I feel like this one specifically felt a bit like a children's book for adult. And that's the best way I can describe it. I just wasn't invested in the story. Life After Life is a mix of something I love and something I don't really care about. Basically, someone reliving their life over and over again, which is a trope. I feel like I've read all the books, okay? I've read all of the books that have that trope. And I did enjoy this one the first half because the main character keeps dying because like diseases when she's a child, which is realistic. I mean, she's born before, I believe, or during the First World War. And unfortunately, it becomes about World War II, which I'm not a big fan. So the ending was weaker for me, but I still think it's worth reading if you, one, enjoy that trope, or you enjoy historical fiction. This is going to be a bit different for you. So I'm not mad about it, but it wasn't my favorite with that trope. Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I have read a lot of his books. This is actually a nonfiction about depression, his own personal battle with it, and I did overall enjoy it. Binti, I thought I was going to love this series a lot more than I did. It is an adult sci-fi series where the main character goes into space, and the magic is kind of linked to maths, which sounds really cool, but it didn't really stick with me. I finished the whole thing, I believe, and I don't remember any of it. Just that it was interesting in theory, but I just found it okay. Lives of the Beholder is the third and last book, I believe, in the Brandon Sanderson series, Legion, which once again, I really like in theory, but they were so short. It's adult sci-fi, and the main character, like I had mentioned, this is the third book. You can read like a dictionary in a different language, and then someone else shows up, and they're that person that speaks that language. It's in his head. For such an interesting premise, I feel like it was not used like at all in that series. It was so short. The books are like 100 pages, so yeah. And then I read The Ballad of Black Tom, which I don't read a lot of urban fantasy, but this one was good. It's like adult and also like horror. It's strange. That's all I can say, but I remember really liking it. It's really short, also like 100-something pages. So between all of these, I think my favorite will have to be Life After Life. I'm choosing a World War II book, but it has a premise I really like. So it's for the first half, okay? That's the reason I'm giving it to that one. Oh, that's why I wasn't reading that much the next couple of months, is because I was preparing, I was pre-filming beauty videos for my old channel because I was about to get double jaw surgery, which that was something. So in June, as I was recovering, I finished 10 books. So the first one was Walking to Aldebaran, which is also by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I was trying to find more books by him because I had loved one so much. And this is another adult sci-fi standalone. I remember this one being quite short, and It's one of those where you're not sure if you can trust the narrator or not because he is like the lone survivor of this astronaut group that went on this planet. Things were weird. It's definitely a strange book, but it was good. It was good. And then I read Dune and I was so disappointed because I had kept that book for my recovery, okay? You know how it is. You keep a book, you're like, oh, this is a guaranteed 5-star. I will love this book. And then when you get to it and you hate it, it's so painful. And this is how I felt about that one. I had the physical book with me. I had to finish it through audiobook because I could not focus. The writing was so tedious. I didn't really care for the story. I didn't care for the I just didn't care about the book, like, at all, and I'm so annoyed because I wanted to love it, and I even watched the movies, and it's not for me. I just don't like it, and I feel like everyone not everyone, but a lot of people do, and they think you're insane for not loving it, but call me insane. I did not like that one. But then I did read one of my favorite books that I still rave about quite a bit, and it is The Sparrow. I believe this was picked up. It was supposed to become a movie or TV show, and then you don't hear anything about it after, but I've been calling this my A Little Life of Sci-Fi. So you can kind of imagine the trauma, the emotional trauma. It's an adult sci-fi. We hear this sound coming from a different planet, and as the government is trying to, prepare a team to go, who has the money to send a team faster? A religious organization. So a group of like Jesuits decide to send a team, and like some of them are priests, some of them are like actual scientists, and they go on a mission trying to meet the aliens, and a lot of weird stuff happens. And it was a lot of trauma. It was a lot of trauma. Basically, only one of them came back alive. That's the start. There's no spoiler there. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It does flip-flop between the timelines, so it can be a little confusing, but I overall really enjoyed that series. I'm still raving about it, so. Then I read Radio Silence, which is another YA contemporary. I did remember liking that one. The story per se didn't stick with me, but I did remember liking the characters, which it's super popular if you enjoy, I think it's LGBTQ plus characters. Yep. So this is super popular. I continued that J. Kristoff series with The Assassin Revenge Girl, and then I read The Good Neighbor about Fred Rogers, which I didn't grow up watching him. I was just curious to see what people had to say about him. It was fine. It's a nonfiction about him. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six as an audiobook since you guys had warned me to do that, and that was the right move because it's basically the story is an interview style, which audiobook made it so much better. I did overall like it, but I thought it was a skeleton of a story, and now that it has become a TV show, I still stand by that. I feel like the TV show was better because it feels more real than the interviews. So it was good, but I would watch a TV show instead. Baby Teeth had to be one of my most hated horror book ever. I had to read that on the plane, and I hated every second of it. It's that trope where like you don't know if the child is messed up, if they're possessed, or if it's the parents losing it, and I didn't really care about some of the sections, so yeah. But then I read 2 books I really like, so I feel like that month was really flip-floppy. Spin. This is so underrated. Yes, the characters are... The writing is dry, the character development is not really there, but the premise is so appealing. If you like sci-fi, this is an adult sci-fi, and it's the first book in a series, but they're, I think, companion-ish novel. You can confirm. I never continued, and the ending is satisfying, so like that's all that matters. So it starts with these 3 teenagers who are just looking at the sky whenever all the stars disappear. And that's all I'm going to say because you have to read this. If you are someone that enjoyed The 3-Body Problem, this can give you a little bit of vibes of that. Not as much, obviously. The other one is super, like, physic heavy, but the beginning might give you some similar vibes. So I did like that one. I need to reread that one day. Exhalation is a Black Mirror-esque short story collection that is the same author that basically wrote the story that became the movie The Arrival. So I would check that one out. It was good. And if I have to choose a favorite, I think I'm going to give it to The Sparrow. That was painful, but it was good. So The Sparrow, yeah. July, I am back to reading way too much. 15 books that year, though. Wow. I read a nonfiction called Quiet, which is about introvert people and how, like, it's very US centric, but it's about how in the US, especially like workplace, it's just completely unacceptable to be an introvert, and it's discussing that topic. It was interesting. I did like it. Then I read A Little Life, which I've heard the critiques. I agree with the critiques, but I still love this book. The writing is beautiful. I was very invested in 2 of the characters. It starts with this group of like 4 friends in New York, and it becomes a lot. And there's one of them that has a lot of trauma, and then you meet Willem, which is one of my all-time favorite characters. Like, you've seen those vlogs of people reading it, crying. Yeah, you can't finish that book without feeling something. Some people hate it. But yeah, I struggled to finish this book. The last 100 pages took me like a week because I kept having to put it down because I did not want to cry. So yeah. The Last House Guest by Megan Ronda is a fun, like, beach read kind of book. You're following a character in this beach town murder mystery. It flip-flops between two timelines, and I liked it. I liked it for what it was. The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I know people said it's really similar to another mystery thriller, but I did like it until the ending. I hated the ending, but until then it was nice if you like kind of haunted house vibes. The Girl with All the Gifts was also a recommendation for a post-apocalyptic book, and I thought it was just okay. It was not my favorite. The Tattooist of Auschwitz is straight up offensive. Literal groups came out, like official organization said that it was offensive, and I agree. I hated it. Like, it felt like the main character was literally at summer camp, like walking around. Offensive and so badly written. The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager was my first book by him. I don't read his books anymore, but this was my favorite. I don't know how it would feel nowadays because, again, it was my first one, but I liked that one. I remember liking it. I don't know how I would feel about it now. An Anonymous Girl, I don't remember that one whatsoever. It's an adult mystery thriller. I think it's like domestic thriller, which I don't really care for. Miracle Creek is a literally fiction contemporary kind of murder mystery. And I think the author writes in a way that is similar to Celeste Ng. So if you love her, you should probably try this one. The Lost Men. Okay, I tried a couple books by Jane Harper and they don't work for me. I did like listening to them as audiobooks because of the accent, but I wasn't super emotionally invested. They're all like murder mysteries, and if that's your thing, give her a shot. She's super popular, but for me, they were all just okay. Dragon Republic, the second book in the Puppy War series, obviously loved that one. I liked the relationship between the characters in that one. I like that it's kind of traumatic, adult fantasy. Everyone knows. And yeah, it's obviously fantastic. I loved it. Final Girls by Riley Sager. I want to read more by him right away because I had liked the first one, and that one was just okay. Didn't really love it. Magic for Liars is a good example of a book that has a fantastic premise and a really horrible execution. You have a murder mystery in a magical school, right? And the main character that is investigating does not have magical powers. And it sounded like it was going to be fantastic, and it really, really wasn't. So, huge disappointment for me. Dark Dawn is the last book in that series by J. Kristoff with the vengeful assassin. After the End was my fault. It was my fault. I saw Claire McIntosh. I had read a couple of her books. They were like murder mystery, and I thought it was another one by that. And I was waiting for the actual thriller to start. And it's not at all what it is about. I believe it's about grief of like losing a child. So that was 100% my fault. Yeah. So for that month, my best one has to be, I know logically I should say the Dragon Republic, but that's why I don't prepare these videos in advance, so I can just in the moment choose, and I want to give it to Little Life. I know how people feel about it, and I don't disagree that like the author purposely put these characters through so much trauma, but we all have our weaknesses, and clearly that's mine. In August, I finished 10 books. The first one was Growing Things and Other Stories by Paul Tremblay, which I hated that one. I don't think I've tried. I had to rewind an audiobook so many times. It happens once in a while. Like, I feel like I can't listen. I remember absolutely nothing. Like, nothing. The Lightest Object in the Universe is also something I don't remember pretty much anything. I know it's post-apocalyptic, but can't have been that great. Then I attempted to read The Raven Boys. Everyone was raving about that series. Again, why contemporary fantasy. And I really wanted to love it. And I had to give up after the third book because I couldn't get into it. I liked the characters. I mostly liked Blue's family because witches, but I did not care about the storyline. Like, I don't care about the freaking ley line or whatever. I don't care about the king that was lost. I didn't care. So yeah, it's one of those stories where I understand why people were emotionally invested, but I was starting to realize that why it wasn't going to work for me anymore. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. You can see clearly very fast. I lost interest in him because this was so annoying. The premise is interesting. The character is hired to sit in that apartment for someone, and she has always wanted to live there, like old apartments, and things are weird and like, oh, is it haunted? And then you follow the most stupid female character of all time. And that's when I started realizing that he always does that, and he kept going. All the other books I've read since by him were like that, so that's why I don't read his books anymore. And yeah, she's just really, really dumb. And I don't like when your stories, every book you write relies on that, so was not for me. The Broken Girls by Simone St. James is probably my second favorite book by her. She tends to write murder mystery, almost a bit magical realism or paranormal, probably a better term for it. It flip-flops between timelines, and it was good. I liked it. Practical Magic. I loved the movie and I wanted to read the book, and I'm here to tell you that the movie is better. The vibes are so good, and this one, it's the same story, obviously, but I feel like it didn't really age really well, like some descriptions and everything, so I would skip that one. Just watch the movie. Then I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I really like that one, especially as an audiobook. I had tried that book physically, and then I had to put it down for whatever reason. This was part of my pile of shame. So I'm assuming actually August, I was doing a vlog reading my pile of shame, and I managed to finish that one, and I did like it. And then the last book I finished that month was The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which is a nonfiction about Henrietta Lacks, LSLs. So if you know anything about science, you've definitely heard of the LSLs. Basically, this Black woman in the US was suffering from cancer. The doctors neglected her, shocker, and they harvested some of her cells of that cancer, and they are still to this day used in research, and she didn't give her consent for that. Her family never received any money for it, any recognition. Well, we now know it's from her, but still. And yeah, it was used for a bunch of research, a bunch of discoveries used her cells, and they're still used. So this is kind of a mix of information about that and also just journalistic research about her family and her and everything, the story. So I would highly recommend this one. This is definitely fantastic nonfiction. And if I have to choose a favorite, actually, you know what? The Song of Achilles was good, but I think I'm going to give it to the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Is it the first nonfiction I've picked as the best of the month? I don't know, but it was fantastic. Do recommend it. In September, I read one book. And it's because I bought a house and I had to move, and overwhelming. A lot of things happened in my personal life. So I only finished The Testaments, which is the second book after The Handmaid's Tale, which I didn't really love, but I wanted to try more because everyone seemed to love it, and I wanted to see if I had missed something. I didn't. I hated that. So no favorites, even though it's the only one I've read, I'm not choosing it. No. So October, I still didn't read a lot. I finished 2 books. The first one was All the Light We Cannot See, which is a historical fiction, World War II. This was before I learned, okay? They didn't work for me. And honestly, I wasn't as invested as I wanted to. I didn't care for neither of the characters, really, nor the romance, the ending. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Then I read The Dry as an audiobook also because I wanted to try more by Jane Harper because she's so beloved, and it was okay. It was just okay. So I'm also not choosing a favorite that month. So in November, I finished 11 books, a lot of audiobooks because I was busy painting and doing things. The first one was The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, which nonfiction, which was good, actually. I did really like that one. I learned a few things and I thought it was really accessible, so I would recommend that one if you're interested. Kiss Cushion, I tried that one because of that Goodreads challenge, which I know better now. Not for me. The Institute by Stephen King, I remember liking it, but the story did not stick with me, like, at all. I just know it's like children and like supernatural powers. That's it. Then I read Night House by Leigh Bardugo. Everyone loved her so much, and I wanted to continue reading more about her to see how it would feel. And this one is set in university, murder mystery, kind of paranormal vibes. Main characters sent there to investigate the murder mystery from fraternities. So I thought you would get more magic than you do, and I hated the main female character. I hated a scene that was in there that I thought was really problematic. The only good character was Darlington, who's like a side character. And yeah, I struggle. I finished it, but I really, really struggled. Watching You, I had to put it down super quickly. I realized I had already tried another book by her that I also did not care for, so I don't read any Lisa Jewell anymore. The Most Fun We Ever Had was also from the Goodreads Choice Award. Did not care for that one at all. I think it's like you're following a family over like multiple generations. Super forgettable for me. The Witch Doesn't Burn, this one. Also, all 3 were Goodreads Choice Award. We're just going to pretend they didn't happen. She Has Her Mother's Laughed is a nonfiction about genetics. It was interesting. Dear Wife, don't remember that one. I don't remember liking it. Oh my god, that month was a mess. The Goldfinch, I wanted to try more by Dana Tartt after reading The Secret History, and I didn't care for that one. That one, I've never been into a book knowing nothing about it and then been so disappointed, like blindsided by the story. You would think I have no expectations, but it still surprised me in a really bad way because I knew that it was about this painting, the goldfinch. So there's this explosion in the museum, and he ends up stealing this painting, and you're following his life and the story of that painting. And it's not really that. It's not really that. You're following once again snobbish people in New York, and then sometimes other people, and a lot of drugs, and a lot of just weird, and not in a good way. I hated that one. And then Nosferatu 2, which I also did not care for, like at all. So that was a bad month for me. Probably didn't help my mood in general, but if I had to choose a favorite, no, you know what? I'm choosing not to. I'm choosing not to. I'm allowed. It's my life. I feel like at the time I probably would have chosen The Institute, but like you can see my face. I don't know. It's not my best of the year. Let's just say that. So last but not least, December, finally, I finished 3 books, The Rules of Magic, because everyone was telling me that the prequel was better than Practical Magic, and it kind of was, but I was also not emotionally invested whatsoever. Where the Crawdads Sing, I've never felt more justified than when it came out that the author had done some pretty problematic stuff, so I couldn't get into it. I don't understand the hype. And then The Invited, that did not really stick with me. You have this couple, they buy this house, and things are weird. It was fine. So, wow. I feel like 2019 was a year of extreme. I either really loved the books or I'm not choosing a favorite. I refuse. So, let's see. What book has to be my best book of the year? That is such a weird year. Let's look at the contenders. It could be The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. I'm going to skip some of the other ones, even though, like, even Recursion could be a good contender. It was a good book, but the characters are not as developed as I wish they were. It could be The Sparrow. It could be Spin, even though it didn't win that month. It could be. It could be A Little Life. Or it could be The Dragon Republic. This is hard. Okay, listen, I'm ready to choose a favorite right away, but I feel like you have to keep in mind that I want to try and respect how it would have felt in 2019. I feel like it's an important portion of this challenge of going back and choosing my ultimate favorite books. And I know how people feel about this book, but A Little Life. I'm sorry. I agree with the critiques. If I were to reread it, would I feel the same? I don't know. Maybe I will have to add that to my list of books I want to reread because maybe I would have hated it the second time around, but it made me cry. And not a lot of books do that. So, a controversial winner. Yeah, that's it. So it means I have to add A Little Life to my list of all-time favorite books. Did it survive the test of time? I'll have to read it again to see, but I genuinely believe I would have chosen this one in 2019. So, and I still recommend it a lot. So, as controversial as it is, that's my pick. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is not the one I thought I was going to pick, but it's honest. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put more videos of this series on the screen so you can go agree or disagree with my reviews for other years, and I will see you in my next one soon. Bye. Wow, this is not what I expected to pick.